Hello everyone, I am Bets Golden and I am coming at you today with a much requested video on gel plate presses. I'm going to do a series over the next couple weeks of a couple different ways that you can use your gel press, and today I want to talk about the traditional way, which is basically just laying paints down with some stencils, maybe lifting some paint up with, like a stamp or something like that. But I'm going to use 3 leading brand paint lines to do this with. We're going to be pulling a lot of prints today. The best kind of paper I like for this is copy paper. It's cheap. If you hate it, it's no big deal. You're just out a sheet of paper. If you love it, you can create from there. So the paints that we're going to be using today are going to be from the Delusions line, and I'm doing this for a couple reasons. I want to see if your type of paint and the product is how it interacts with this particular with the gel plate. I want to see if if it lays as good, and one lays better, one lays worse, one's thicker, one's thinner. The only way we can do that is if we do a comparison. So Delusions is a water-based paint. It is blendable acrylic. If you get it wet, it will interact with the water and it will change, which is really cool. Diane Reevely did not create this line to be permanent. She liked it to always be moving and changing. I have never really seen much with a gel press and this, so I wanted to give this a try. The next is Dina Wakley. I've seen her stuff on a gel press plate before, not very often, but hers is an acrylic line. It's more of an artist grade, thicker, beautiful, vibrant colors, so I thought this would be fun. Then last but not least, we have our Deco Art, which is by Plaid. This seems to be the standard on jelly plates. I see this in a lot of places, but I'm pulling in a couple different types. Of course, it's the traditional. Then I'm going to be pulling in the metallic, as well as the color shift. We're going to see what we get. And then, of course, with all those beautiful blues, we need to have a little bit of white. So let me talk about the gel plates right now. I bought another smaller one. I've had this one forever, as you can tell. I don't clean mine. I like it dirty. These little spots and bits lift up when you do your rolls. So even though I may be doing something with Delusions, there's a good chance this is going to lift up as well with it, which is a-okay with me. I went and purchased a smaller plate because I would prefer to, once I do my brayer here, just to take it and just do the excess off over on this side, and eventually at the end we can lift what this is and clean it off as needed. I thought it would be fun to possibly create 2 different prints from the same paint and not just brayer it off in my journal, which is fun too. And these may end up in my journal, who knows. So I have a pile of stencils that I'm going to be using and pulling from as I do this. But let's talk about the differences in the gel press plates. So what a gel plate is it's almost like a gelatin type material. There are a bunch of articles out and how-tos on making your own gel plate. I think that would be beneficial if you want a certain size or shape and you can't find it. However, I don't think that it's cost effective. If you want a gel plate on the cheap, my recommendation to you is going to your big box craft stores and just using your 40% off coupon and purchasing one that way. The reason why gel press is so cool and it's such a fun thing to work with is you can do lifting on your craft mat. However, there's no cushion on your craft mat like there is on a gel plate. So you'll get not a very good lift, not a crisp lift like you would on your gel press plate. So that's one reason. The second reason is as we venture into other mediums later on, like alcohol ink. Yes, we're going to do alcohol ink on this. You will notice that the alcohol ink lifts and it doesn't entirely dry. So your mediums stay moist a little bit longer, they stay wet a little bit longer, and they kind of stay suspended on this so you can get a really nice image. And that doesn't happen on your craft mat. Oftentimes on your craft mat it dries, and so you could play around and put a big foam, like the foam pads that you stamp on, underneath your craft mat, and you may be able to get a lift if you work pretty quick before the paint dries. You might be able to get a pretty decent lift. However, if you want to have that work time, this is definitely the way to go, and it definitely is much more cushioned even than a foam mat is. So that is why when I print, I recommend a gel plate instead of just on your craft mat or foam or something. That also gets really messy and you can't always get the paint up. Whereas this, if it dries on here, there is no cleanup. So what? You just put it away and you can use it next time. So let's go ahead and first get started. I'm going to be using Plaid Paint, which is their Deco art line, and I've already showed you. And I'm just going to be laying out some color in some random spots. And depending on the climate that you're in, really depends on how much paint you can lay down. I am in a rather dry climate, so I can probably get away, like that is way too much. I can probably get away with putting on a little bit more because it may dry a little bit quicker. But for the most part, since this is a surface that is made for wet paint, it doesn't take much, so that's kind of cool. All right, and then I'm going to throw in a little bit of cottage white just to give it a little bit of variation, and I've used this quite a bit, as you can tell. Okay, and that's quite a bit, so I'm really glad that I have an excess over here. Now, an excess gel plate. So, a brayer. This is important. You need to always store your brayer upside down. If you store it like this, you'll start to get a flat end. So you don't want that. You always want to store upside down. And I'm just going to go ahead and just start to brayer this out. And I'll clean the excess off up there. And as you can see, I have a lot more on the bottom than I do on the top. And I'm going to do the first lift on this, and then I'm going to go over it. Actually, I have some wonderful bubble wrap, so I'm just going to take and put my bubble wrap in like so, and just start to create some texture. And I really did blend those colors quite a bit, so if you don't want yours that blended, then don't brayer it out as much as I did. All right, I'm going to go ahead now and pull my first print. So what I do is I take this sheet of paper, I lay it on over here like this, and with that same dirty brayer, I'm just going to use it to get my lift. I have a separate brayer, so if I didn't want to get the back dirty, I would just pull out my other roller, or I would just roll this off. But with what I'm going to do with these, I'm okay with the back being like this. And then that's my first lift. And see how it pulled up those little nooks and crannies? I think that's super cool. Then I'm going to go ahead and just lift this over here as well. And I'm just going to do it on the back of it. And then boom. I don't care so much about this one as much as I do about this one. So that was a really cool print. But I want to add on top of this. So I'm going to set this aside for just a moment. And I'm going to take this bubble stencil, lay this down along with, it's not bubble, it's circle, this circle stencil. And I'm just going to throw on the same colors again. So I'm going to start with whites. It's quite a bit. There we go. That's a little bit better. Then we'll do this metallic. That was the color shift. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to brayer this out right on my stencil. And I really like how that looks. So I'm going to do 2 lifts. The first lift I'm going to do on that side. And again, I'm brayering this side out over here, like so. And I got that really cool image. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it down on my other side like so. And this time I'm going to use my clean brayer, or I should say my dry brayer. Or not, because I don't know where it is. I thought I had it down there, but I'm not finding it, so that's okay. So just going to lay this out and pick up that stencil piece. Look how cool that is. All right, so that's kind of how you can use some stencils with this, and just with that traditional paint. So now we're going to move on to the Dina Wakley line. And for her line, I am going to go back over and just try to pick up some more of this, because I really want to make sure that I get as much of it up where it's as dry as possible. Okay. So we're going to build on this piece of paper. Okay, so for this line, I've always said color families are important, which are really true when you're working with water-soluble colors, or colors, you know, that can move when they're wet. However, when you're with acrylics, you're less likely to get that muddy look as long as you don't overwork it. So I'm pulling in some very dangerous combos here. I'm pulling in an orange, which is cheddar. I'm pulling in a pink, and I'm pulling in a turquoise. These are colors that normally you would not want to mix together. However, since we're on the gel press plate, it might be okay. as long as we do not over mix it. I'm going to make sure that this is okay. So I can already tell that though I did use less paint, since her paint is so much thicker, I'm going to need to put more down next time. So I'm going to do 2 presses with this. And again, if you just wanted to rub it on your hands, that totally would work. So let's see how this first press looks. Ooh, that's kind of cool. So I'm going to go ahead and go over it again. This time I'm going to pull in a stencil. And I'm going to use this stencil right here. So to do this, I'm actually going to lay my paint out first, brayer it out, and then I'm going to layer my stencil out over that. So I'm just going to use the same colors again. And I am putting on a little bit more paint. Not much though. And I'm not getting mud, so that's a really good thing. And I'm just going to take this, which is really pretty by the way, and just push it off onto this one. So I can go over it again, and my likelihood for that mud is less because I'm brayering it off on this side. So from here, I actually want to take and put this beautiful stencil in, and I'm just going to brayer it on like so. Because I want to get some of those flowers in there. That's really pretty. And then I'll put it off over here. And then let's also put on let's do this one. This one's fun. And I am starting to get a little mud. So I'm going to take and put it up over here, and then I'll lay my paper out again on it. And we will call it good. All right. So I'm just going to place that same print over again. You can start with a new print if you want. Ooh, look at the back is kind of fun too. And let's see what this one did. So you really can't see the flowers in that, but that is a really cool print. This down here is a little bit too bold for my liking. So I don't know if I'm probably going to use Dina Wakley's mixed media paint on my jelly print like I had just tried much. I prefer it more in the journals, so that's just my preference. However, that doesn't mean that it's not good, because it is. It's just, it's not what I'm looking for when I do my presses. So I'm just going to take and just really roll that out, get that excess off. That's beautiful. And let's just see what happens when I put my junker down. Okay, so this is super pretty. So that maybe is a technique that would be more beneficial, which is how I just did that. All right, so let me clean off this excess over here, and then we'll move on to the Delusions paint line. I only have a little bit of the Dina Wakley paints, so that's why I can only showcase those 3. I definitely have more Delusions than I do really, well, plaid I have a lot of too, but I can play a little bit of this. So I really like that. That looks super cool. All right, so let's go ahead and move into our Delusions line. And the first mix I'm going to make is going to be with this blush, the vanilla custard, and then the rose quartz. And now these are mixables, so the colors do interact with each other. So, and I am mixing kind of some dangerous colors eventually. So just keep that in mind as we do this. Hers is super watery, and that is why I'm not putting much down. I think the thicker the paint, the more you really need. And I can just, look at that. That works. Take that and do it like so. And then, ooh. Something else, just a side note with the Delusions paint is, if you guys are noticing that they're drying out, just add a squirt or 2 of water before you seal it after every time you're done, and that'll keep the longevity of your paint. You'll be able to use it through the end. Now this is a blush. This one's getting a little bit thicker, so I probably need to add some water to this, which is fine. And I want to go back and put some more custard down because I feel like my custard got a little bit lost with all that pink. So there we go. And you know, I see a lot of people that do these beautiful ombres on this. I don't really do that. I just kind of slap the paint down and go from there. So you have to really do what works for you. That's the beauty of this art. All right, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and just lay it out. And let me pull this print. Actually, I want to add some texture. Let me do some of this. Right there. There. That should be fun. There. Right. And then let me put on some this. There we go. All right. So let's see what we're left with here. Dun, dun, dun. So my texture kind of got lost in that, but that's okay. It's still pretty. I like it. We can still work with it. In fact, I can throw this one, it's still pretty wet, over the top. Like, yeah, I still can't see it, but that's okay. Could be my technique that I used as well. That looks pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to just lift this up with this piece paper over here. All right, so let's move on to a different color combination with some Delusion. But really the Delusion paint lays about the same as the plaid does. So if you have some colors in either line that you prefer, I would recommend just going ahead and mixing them together and see what you get, the product line. And at the end of this, I am going to do a mix of kind of all three on the gel press because I think that will be fun. Okay, so the next one I'm going to use, we're going to use Sin, the color Sin, which is a purple. It's lilac. And then I have some mushy peas, and I'm going to pull in some vanilla custard. So for this one, I am going to definitely roll from top to bottom, and I'm going to do my light color on the top, and then my darker colors as I go down. So we're going to start with the custard. And then we're going to move into the mushy peas. And then last but not least, we're going to move into the laid back lilac. Oh, and I got some purple in my green and the purple. That's bad. Oh, don't ever do what I just did. Totally cross-contaminated my paint. Oh, well. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to work from the top down. I'm going to take my junker paper and actually start to clean this brayer on my paper because I really don't want to mix. These two colors mixing are okay. They're kind of in the same color family. But my purple, I don't want to mix that too much with that green, okay? So I'm just going to get a nice blend down here on the bottom, like so. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and just pull that lift. The back is quite pretty too. Oh, I like that. That looks really great. Okay, so let's go ahead and just throw all of it on here. All the different brands that we have on. And let's see what we can get. I really like my junker paper too. I think that turned out quite lovely. All right. So I have... let's just use the Delusions purple since I already have some of that going on. So I'm going to just slap down some purple on this. And then let's do the Magneta, the pink from Diane Reevely's line. And yes, I'm adding quite a bit more than usual because it is a thicker paint. And then for this one, this is more green. I want to try to respect the color families at least a little bit as I play with this, simply because I am mixing product lines. I don't want to push my luck too much. So I'm going to do the blue topaz on this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just brayer this out. I also am going to add in a little bit of white. see if that worked. How cute is that? So that's a really nice use of white space. I'm going to put that over there because I'm going to actually brayer over it one more time on that side. So this is my second lift. That's fun. That's pretty. And let me go ahead and just brayer this out on here to clean it. Look at that. Get all that excess paint there. So let me lay it again. And that really cleaned that mat pretty well. Oh, wow. This one is fun. Look at that. Isn't that cool? I love this one. Who would have thought, right? You just got to keep playing and playing. And then let's go ahead and just take and start to clean off our little friend over here. That's pretty too. Nice card base. So we're just kind of do a hodgepodge of prints. That's fun. And then of course this still is wet, so I want to just pop this on again. Kind of fun. And I'll pop it on again. I think that side's pretty dry though. If you're using acrylics with stencils, you do not need to clean your stencil every time. If you're using watercolor paint, you do. So with the Delusion, since I did use Delusions with this, I am going to go ahead and wash it off because it could transfer into something I don't necessarily want it to transfer into. So in conclusion, you can pretty much throw any paint on this as you want. I will not be using glitter because I'm afraid that that will end up damaging my gel press plate. So I am sticking with paints. However, my favorite is plaid paint, and I'm also pretty impressed with the Delusions line on this as well. If you want to seal your prints, go ahead and put a sealer on. There are a couple different kinds out there that you can use. Mod Podge has a new one out, Mod Podge Ultra. You guys have heard me talk about it before. Just spray it on. Make sure you use it in a well-ventilated area, lifted, because it will literally attach itself to anything, because it is a sealer and a glue. Tim Holtz also has a Distress Glaze Out that does the same thing. You could rub it over and seal it as well. That's for your Delusion painted ones that we did today. So here's a recap of the ones that we did with a whole bunch of different paints. This is our one in which we did everything. That's all the lines. Plaid, Delusions, Dina, Wakley. And then there's that one. That's our Junker page. This one is Delusions. This one is Delusions. This one is the Dina Wakley. And this one is the Plaid. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was enlightening. Please give this video a thumbs up if you did. Leave any questions or comments down below. I by no means am an expert on using the gel press. I've just done some research on it, and I've recently just really have been playing with it, so I thought I would pass on some of what I've learned. In the future, you're also going to see some more videos using ink on it. I'm going to compare ink pads on it. I'm also going to use some Color Burst on it, alcohol ink, Tattered Angel Glimmer Mist, and I'm also going to be using their stickers as stencils. So make sure you come back for that. So that's going to be over the course of this month in April 2019. Until next time, happy crafting!